A very good evening, everyone. Welcome. I welcome you on behalf of SciSec, NASCOM Future Skills Prime, SkillsDA, and ISEC to the March for Secure Code program. Today, we have one of our expert masterclasses. As you all know, March for Secure Code is a month-long program on secure application coding and cybersecurity, which is conducted by SciSec, KTech Center of Excellence in Cybersecurity, in partnership with NASCOM Future Skills Prime and SkillsDA. This course comprises almost of 51 hours of learning, 13 hours of theory, and 38 hours of hands-on exercise, and also includes a course on application security vulnerability assessment, which is self-paced, and a grand challenge competition at the end of the month. Today, however, we have an expert masterclass, and the theme of the masterclass today is cybersecurity is a journey, not a destination. We have an expert with us today, Sailja Vadlamudi. Over to you, Priya, for the introduction, and Sailja for the rest of the session, please. I'm sure the students are eagerly awaiting for the session to start. I think you're on mute, Priya.
Thank you so much, Shika. Thank you so much for a good start. It's my pleasure to have Sailaja in this session. Thank you so much, Sailaja, for being part of this expert session. A brief introduction about Sailaja. She is a mentor, author, researcher, security strategist, and part of a global advisory member. So she has a lot of credentials to her. She is currently playing the role of application security lead, and she's also director of security and data privacy at SAP Labs. She has over 18 years of experience, and she drives security strategy for India location and works towards building security culture in the region. And she's responsible for all security initiatives in the organization. She's a noted speaker at national and international forum, and she apparently started her career in application security in 2008. So there are many things about Shailaja, but I'll keep it short. She has a lot of certifications to her credit. She is a CISM certified individual, CDPSE certified data privacy security engineer, and she is also SAP certified threat modeling expert. Apart from that, not just certification, she's been recognized by various organizations. She's among the top 20 Indian women security influencer in the year 2020. She got Women of Excellence Award in 2020. She got the award of Cybersecurity Ambassador in 2021. And she got the Tech Beacon Award in 2021. I'm sure she has more, but this is only for the last 2 years, the awards that I'm telling. So there are a lot of great things that we have in our speaker today. So let's start off the session, Shailaja. So being recognized as the top 10 women in cybersecurity is in no way a mean achievement. So we'd really love to hear your career journey that made this possible.
Thank you, Priya, and thank you, Shika, for having me, and thank you for the wonderful introduction of mine. Yes, the journey goes on. As I said, security is a journey, so as the credentials and also the recognitions as we all see here. And first of all, I would like to congratulate each and every one of the students over here for being part of this program. At least I and Priya are so jealous of all of you in a way. When we started our career, we never had such programs of the niche or the nichest skills where we can really go and really get skilled. And there are a lot of free trainings and there are a lot of awards after you finish the training. So I wish you all the very best, and I also request you all to please use these wonderful platforms so that you can also become the next champion in the cybersecurity world. Yeah, coming back to me, let me just quickly take you through my journey, right? What is that my journey all about? in this domain. And before getting in there, I would also like to quickly tell you about who am I, and then how I started. I think, Priya, if you could quickly confirm if you're able to see my screen. I think.
Yes, we can see
Okay.
it.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. So I think, we all, normally I say, like, I've been brought up with my friends and my cousins and my, people in the fields in the summertime, unlike you guys with the gadgets and all sitting around. And we were all brought up in the muddy puddles and picking fights, playing with friends. I could really say, like, it's a golden era where we really enjoyed childhood. Even I keep telling my kids, nowadays everything is so digital, and then they don't even get comfortable to get into the muddy puddle or to get into the forms without even wearing the slippers, because this generation is highly sensible in many ways. And so henceforth I could also really say so proudly, like, we were able to really touch base the ground, and we can still touch base the digitization as well. So that's the golden era wherein I started, and I really experienced the best of both the worlds, I have to say. And coming back to, like, what is this journey all about? What I started doing, right? I am like one of you in here, like a student who just, finished my master's, and then the dreams are full, the bags are, packing the bags with all the dreams and all the hopes for the future. As I said, we never had the privilege of having so many wonderful platforms like this, and we all our own. Because even though I started, like, my career journey, I'm having masters in computer applications, but still it was not so easy then to get a job which you decide to do. So I have to settle down with an assistant professor. I started my career as an assistant professor, but still, it did not limit me to really, chase my dream of having a technical career, right? And then I started aiming around, and then I started picking up a job at several organizations. And I also happened to start my career as an SAP ABAP consultant. And after, picking jobs in one or two organizations, SAP was always, and I still say it is still my dream company to work for. And I'm also able to get inside the SAP during 26, starting my career journey as an SAP ABAP consultant, right? And again, because as I said, security is always a journey, and it's not a destination. It holds good for any kind of a journey, any kind of a career journey, that every one of you are really moving forward. I think you will also experience it a lot better than us. And here, when I have to say, like, I started my journey in 2008, and then an opportunity knocked my door, and then there was a question on the floor, who would like to do this? And then I said, okay, let me just, grab this opportunity. And then I started adding some more flavors, because some of you must be hearing about data privacy, and then the WhatsApp is trying to change the privacy policies, so on and so forth. Is kind of a lot of buzz in the market. So when I started my journey into application security, I also slowly started adding one after the other flavors to my profile to make it really competent. At the same time, the thirst to learn is growing day by day as I am, moving forward in my career journey. And then what happened was, that's where in 2020, I just also want to make the long story short. I also was, handpicked as an application security lead for the entire location of SAP, which is also kind of an honor, I have to say, because these many years, what I've been doing is I'm only learning, upskilling, unlearning, reskilling, open for challenges, open for opportunities. Because as we all know, security was never the mainstream, right? We only used to hear few things here and there. At least even the people who are like us in the security domain, we used to hear very small, minute things about it. But suddenly, from past few years, and also during pandemic, what happened? What happened is security started hitting the headlines in the newspapers and also in the TV channels. Every media you see, this has become the biggest threat of the era that we are living in, right? And so the organizations are also like very keen on picking up the security roles. And each and every organization, I can tell you today so confidently, they started recruiting so many resources in cybersecurity. Yeah, and the fact is also, right, we don't have so many skilled professionals in the market at the same time. So when there is a huge demand and the skill set are less, like, I think none of you should need to take a diversion in your career, unlike which I did at the starting of my career. but rather you could really pick and choose the career which you wanted, which is also so high and demanding. At the same time, what we also witnessed during this time is all of us, at least all of my friends inside my organization and my friends in my networks, all of us were quite employable. There were a lot of, hiccups for many people, people losing jobs and then not getting promotions and not getting proper hikes and so on and so forth. But trust me, people who all are working in the application security domain, data privacy, and all that, things related to cybersecurity and information security, all of us are equally employable. And we could really, at the same time, we could also expand our teams, which was also a big challenge every time to convince the management, can you please give us what is it all about? And then the journey is continuing 2021, if I have to say. As I said, it's a journey, right? Security is a journey, it's not a destination. So the journey is continuing here. And let me just see, this is not going up. Yeah, good. And then, as Priya also mentioned, at some point of time, I also felt there's a need to also give back to the community, because I have picked up so many things throughout this career journey, and I have quoted my own self with so many flavors of security. I felt there is a need to sensitize, especially the girls and the women from the rural areas, on the digital era, because now they are targeted. There is a gender-based, attacks that are happening on the social media and also on the digital platforms. So we felt there's a need to sensitize all of these young girls and women across nations and across generations. At the same time, we also would like to upskill few students from the rural areas, and then would like to onboard them to join hands with us and to become the future leaders and the future entrepreneurs in the security domain. And I also keep telling all my friends in the network, one of my deepest wish, also not for me and also not for any one of us, is, but for all of us as a country, I wanted India to become the cybersecurity destination. We have proven it many times, telling India is the destination for all technical related stuff, because that is very much in our gene. And also, we are also fortunate enough to have the most youngest population in the entire globe, if we have a look into the number of population, right? So, I also started this non-profit Women in Cybersecurity and Privacy. And last year, I was also kind of stuck during the exact time, during the similar timelines in March. I just onboarded that non-profit during February, and I'm like equally lost like any one of us over here. But then it still opened up huge opportunities. I had a few targets of reaching some few colleges and few places. But since the platforms have become digital, right, we were able to reach to more than 70,000 citizens across the globe. And we were able to reach to 13 colleges, able to offer some internships, some programs. We joined hands with Telangana government and then Andhra government in sensitizing the citizens. So we could do really well, much beyond we expected. So what I'm trying to say is, in our journey, there'll be a lot of, we see it as a mountain, we see it as a hurdle, but we all have to understand there's definitely a way out if we have the really will and perseverance to really, chase that and then go ahead about it. And in 2021, what is happening is, yeah, the applause and the people patting me on the back continues with all the efforts that I'm also trying to put into several platforms. NASSCOM is one, and I'm also on the panel for BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards. They're also coming up with IoT security and privacy framework. So I'm also one of the panel member over there. I'm part of Cloud Security Alliance Research Group. So in my free capacity, I also try to add, few cents of my knowledge to the national level policies. At the same time, I am also doing research and security and submitting white papers and doing publications on that. And at the same time, taking people along with me, which is more important, right? Because after we feel like, yes, we have achieved whatever you wanted in your career, it's also important to give hands and to also rise people together and to also shine together. That is what I believe in. And trust me, when the opportunity knocked my door in 2008, I don't have a clue about it. I don't know what is application security is all about. And I was never trained on the topic as such. They just said, we have this huge escalation, would you like to work on it? I said, yeah, why not? If there's a huge escalation and if the company needs it, if it is really very, very important for the organization, I would like to do it. From then on, there's no turning back. Of course, there are huge challenges. The challenges were also really steep. And sometimes I'm also like, do I have to really do this? I also, because all of us are human in the end, and we all undergo that phases for sure at some point of time. But I survived and I thrived, I have to say. And I wish, we will be hearing many more stories of such, career stories in application security in and around. And we as a team would also like to hear many such stories from all of you after you completing your course on the platform.
That was absolutely fantastic, Shailaja. It's such an inspiring journey. And the best part of it, I want to tell all the people, is nothing is stopping Shailaja from learning more. She's actually now doing cyber law at NLS. So her own learning is continuing while she's contributing to the society as well as to her organization. Wonderful, wonderful journey, Shailaja. I wish you many more success and many more accolades and many more contribution to the people. This is
Thank you,
really inspiring. So going on to the next question. So as you heard Shika mention, so the whole purpose of the SciSec event that we have planned for this month is actually have the people undergo the application security course. And as you rightly pointed out, 2008, you came into this field not knowing what it is. So here also we have people across the engineering practices as well as science students who have probably some amount of programming knowledge, but that's about it. But then we said, you can all start a career in application security, and that is why this was chosen. Now, we hear that you have been handpicked by SAP as India's first application security lead. So can you let us know what it entails for a career in AppSec?
Yeah, this is a wonderful question, Priya. For example, all the students over here, as I understand, all of them are already doing STEM, right? But if I have to say, for example, there are so many experts out there across the world who have not even done a single line of coding, but then they're kind of having a wonderful career in the application security. So they just started picking some bug bounties and here and there and so on. But at the same time, what I felt when I'm looking into the people, if you have a career opportunity as a cybersecurity, if you have the technical skills, if you know the programming skills, it's wonderful. It's going to really help you. Even if that is not the case, it should not stop you from pursuing your career in, application security is what I have to say, because it's all about, simple common sense, and it's all about understanding how things work. I can tell you one quick example. There is a person who is doing sales, and his friend is also a techie. And then this person wanted to really try out, wanted to have an additional income, right? And his friend told him, why can't you think about bug bounties? And this particular person, when he wanted to do this bug bounties, he doesn't know tech. He's purely sales guy to the core. He never did STEM at his college and all that, and he tried to follow all of these blogs and all of these big bug bounters in and around, but he definitely understands the process behind the business because he's a salesperson and he sells his products day in and day out. So one fine day he was just doing shopping. It's all about mindset. He just got into the mindset. He started focusing it for 2 to 3 months. One day he was just doing it in shopping, and then he added everything into the shopping cart. And before logging out, he thought, okay, instead of this $100, can I make it $10 and push the cart? He was able to do it, and he's like, wow, Eureka. He started jumping out of his seat. He understood it's not only the technology part, but it's also about the process and how the system works, which is really, really important for anybody. And it's more over the mindset, because he should have aram se finished it, and he should have done, because it's his normal shopping exercise which he does, picking something for his own self or for his family. But that day, since he's got into that mode of thinking like an hacker, thinking like an attacker, he could really tweak something and he could really find out. Yeah, so that is what I would like to tell the students over here. When you want to start your career, be it a bug bounty, be it an application security, it is all about trying to understand the system, understand how it works, understand, trying to think out of the box. That really makes it, more handy enough. For sure, as I said, if you know the technology, if you know the stack and all, it definitely helps. But moreover, it's all about the mindset, Priya.
Very nice. So going on to the next question, the most, probably the most searched word, DevSecOps. I think everybody around talks about DevSecOps. Can you please throw some light on this?
Yeah, DevSecOps, I'm going to, cover it up in my tech talk as well. And if you would like to ask me one-liner as as an outsider for security, DevSecOps is like just, integrating security in everything I do as part of my development. Just make it, for example, when you're eating rice, right? Say like you have rasam or something or whatever you could think of. You're just trying to mix it, or you're just trying to add ingredients at each and every phase of it. For example, earlier what used to happen was, at least when I started my career, we used to finish the entire development. And then it's good to have some scans. It's good to have some cross checks telling whether this is good, that is good, and so on and so forth. And then we used to say like, okay, I ran this tool, I ran this, application, and then this is showing me one prio high, two prio medium, and so on and so forth. If I fix it, good, well enough. But then now with this, normally people say it as shift left. What is meant by shift left is moving towards the early phase of the development and trying to understand how you can, integrate or involve security right from the concept. Right from much before writing your lines of code, you have to think about security, and you have to integrate tools throughout the each and every phase of the development, not just only towards the end of the development. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions, Priya?
No, you could go ahead with the tech topic.
Okay. So as I said, security is not just a normal journey, right? It's a proactive journey, and it's. I think some. I think some of you have to mute your phone, mute your lines.
Requesting all those who are not speaking.
Yeah, thank you. So security is not just a normal journey, it's a proactive journey. And, there's no destination, as you have seen in my career, right? It's going on and on, on and on. And I just also want to start with a quick disclaimer. Whatever, thoughts and opinions that I'm going to express over here, it's purely about the knowledge which I grabbed, nothing to do with the organization that or the committee or the groups that I represent here. Yeah. And, I think 2 decades ago, when we think of security, it's all about the science fiction movies. I'm not sure how many of you have really seen those science fiction movies, like, people hacking things and then doing so much of cool stuff and so on and so forth. But if we look into how it has been transformed today, yeah, it's become, the same, science fiction movies, whatever we have seen earlier, the same cyberspace, I have to say, we all are living in today. It has become so inseparable element for each and every one of our day-to-day lives. We agree it or not, that's the reality. And we just can't leave out of the house without our mobile phone. We just can't. We tend to leave sometimes your ID card or your books or your bag, even whatever, but then not the mobile phone, because we are so much knitted into it. And then gone are the days where we can say, cybersecurity is all about fiction. It's real, it's fact, it's the space where you and I are totally living in. And at the same time, whenever we talk about risk, cybersecurity, right, the biggest term we every time hear in the market is risk. And I think just looking into the personal, day-to-day aspects of our life, risks are real, right? Even we'll take risk at each and every phase of life, at each and every, thing that we do in our day-to-day lives, starting from education, right? We are not, for example, in our time, we are not quite sure. I think this holds also good current scenario. We just get into something, into STEM or non-STEM, into economics, into maths, into biology, not knowing how is it going to fetch us, where is it going to really take us. At the same time, we also invest our money sometimes in mutual funds, sometimes in land, sometimes in houses. But then, and also, people booze, people do so many other activities. They know there's a huge risk for their health, but they still do it. The same goes with the, relationships as well. You never know, a wife and a husband, whether they're going to stay together forever, or the kind of trust you have it's still risky, right? What I'm trying to say is we accept risks on a daily basis in each and every scenario that we could really relate to. I can go on and on with this list. At the same time, security starts at home, right? I think all of us have to accept to the fact none of us will leave our home without locking it. We definitely, each and every one of us who are present in this session today, each of us have a lock to our houses, right? And at the same time, security is also power. When we think from the context of our borders and all of that, right, we have a strict security over there, and we definitely know what it is. And at the same time, security is timeless. Timeless in the sense it is applicable throughout, right from the beginning, where people were only, cautious about the physical aspects and physical weapons and all, whereas in the current era where we are in the digital space and wars are happening in the cyber era and all of that, irrespective of the era, wherever we are living in, starting from the Stone Age to the digital age, security is really timeless and it is the most important factor of our lives. Yeah. And when we talk about, since all of your students and also Priya mentioned it to me, most of you are coming in from science and the technical backgrounds. In case you have not seen this picture earlier, don't get worried about it. I'm just trying to tell you what all of the OSI networking layers we have in front of us. We have, starting from physical layer to the application layer. And this picture also clearly depicts what is happening in each and every layer. And when we compare this with the security architecture reference model, we say, like, for example, the topmost layer is all about the application layer. And that is where you all are also learning on the platform about the application security. If you see, the entry point for you to access everything is all through the application layer. And also, trust me, there are so many job opportunities, especially in this domain of application security layer. Yeah, the reason why, because everyone starts accessing the applications, starting from any social media platform to business application to any critical applications or critical infrastructure, whatever. Everything starts from accessing one UI, wherein that's the entry point for all of this, for you to get into the system to get access to all the other factors of it. So having said that, what I'm trying to say is, for applications, yes, we have a development process. Since all of you are at college, I'm not sure if you have undergone this software engineering classes or a subject in your sessions. Normally, what happens in the development process, we will collect the requirements, and then the requirements will be collected, gathered, and they will do a thorough thought process. And then the requirements will be translated into the backlog items, or they will divide those requirements into small pieces. And these requirements will be offered to the development teams. Then the development teams will look into this, and then the developers like you and I will be looking into that. And depending on the technology and the platforms they want us to develop, we will start doing coding for that applications. And once we do the coding, we do testing, and then we release. As I said, normally while releasing the application, we will have a lot of checks, like security is also one of the check. This is the development process earlier, when, a way ago, like maybe a decade ago, is what I have to say, in most of the organizations, or globally as well. But now, since we all have seen the application layer is the first entry point, we just have to really take care about it. We just have to think, security right from the beginning. This is for sure not the secure software development life cycle. Yes, does it mean we are not doing security at all? Of course, we are doing security towards the end of the development, as I also mentioned earlier. But this is not the ideal way in case if we want to achieve the best security for the application that we are going to work on. So here, what it is, so generally when the same development process, normally when we shift it into secure software development lifecycle, much before the team start developing or collecting the information, there will be a minimal training given to all the roles, starting from the people who will be involved in development, the people who will be involved in collecting the information and translating it into a requirement, so that you and I can build an application or build an a product, right? So there will be reasonable amount of training given, and much before people try to implement. Here, if you see, people have not started development yet. It is still in the preparation mode. During the preparation mode, what people do is they sit and do the risk assessment. Yeah, and here risk assessment is nothing but, let me tell you in very simple terms. Say, for example, a couple of you are planning to do your, a small project work, mini project work. You thought you would like to build a small application. And in that application, if the user would like to, maybe you would like to build a small replica of Amazon or Flipkart or whatever, just say for example. And in that application, first of all, when you decided like you want to build some similar application of an e-commerce platform, e-commerce website, what you will do, you sit and gather all the information, what all is required. At the same time, along with the requirements, you also have to think, say for example, if I am asking user to enter his user ID, for sure there should be password, right? And then on the top of it, if you have any additional fields, right? For example, I'm going and checking in the website, you have created a wonderful e-commerce website for shopping. Yeah, I can also shop my clothes, my shoes, and all fashion related stuff. And if I'm just, instead of I going and checking for shoes, if I just go and put shoes in single columns, is it trying to give me some error? Is it going to show me, or can I write a SQL injection into the text box wherever you have given a field for search and all that? It should not be the case, right? So whenever you are developing an application, you sit together with bunch of people and you try to assess what all can go wrong. What are the risks when we are developing this particular application? So for example, you say when you are having a search field, it should not allow any special characters over here. It should not allow any executable commands in that search field. Maybe because only I can go and search for a top for that particular brand, for a shoe or for a bag, so on and so forth. Not necessarily anybody will be allowed to write one executable code in the search field so that they're trying to get something from the backend database, right? And at the same time, say for example, you have so many vendors on the platform. Say now you have started using this application, it is live. You have so many customers on that. Does it mean like you have, say, since you have started it newly, you have 1,000 vendors? People are coming and selling their goods and products on your application. And here, does it mean you have like 5,000 customers who are registered on this platform? Does it mean you're going to give all the data of each and every one of your customer to all the people who are going to sell the products? I don't think so. So what you do is you clearly define some rules inside the application so that only your team, for example, say like you have come up with an application like abc.com. Only the employees of abc.com in the backend team will be having access to the customers of this particular application. Not necessarily each and every vendor who is on the platform will be having access to each and every customer of yours, right? So these are some of the rules. I'm just telling you a few examples what goes in while you're discussing about risk identification. At the same time, nowadays, what we also say is, as I mentioned, there are a lot of privacy laws all around going on and forth. So here, people also look into this. If you have any personal data, what is the additional measure you have to do? What are the authorizations you have to do? So there is so much of brainstorming that happens much before you start your development. Once you finish your risk identification, what people do is they plan. Now that I know what is required in order to develop it in a secure manner, now I plan and then I start my development and I do testing, and then I do, I also validate it with one more additional round of testing and so on. And Microsoft is the one who has coined this secure software development lifecycle. And they also say it starts with training. Training is mandatory for each and everyone, so that the expectation is each and everyone who is involved, starting from a tester to a developer to a product owner, program manager, everyone who is involved in that entire developing of that particular application should have decent understanding of what should go in as part of a security requirement, right? So this is the entire process that goes in. And at the same time, you also have to have a plan. For example, tomorrow, say like someone is able to compromise your system. In the previous example, when I mentioned about this particular salesperson, when he's trying to do the shopping on your e-commerce website, abc.com, he purchased a bill of 1,000 rupees and he just tried to change it as 100. And he's also really very, nice person. He did not exploit your platform, but then rather he reported it back to you. So whenever there are some kind of alerts or security issues that are getting reported, you should also have a plan in place, mechanism in place where you pick it, look into it, quickly do the analysis, do a fix, relook into your code, debug it, fix it, and then release a patch so that none of the other people will be able to exploit your application. Yeah. So normally, Microsoft has come up with an, basic terms called STRIDE. This is the key source for doing risk assessment. Normally, we also coin it as threat modeling. We say the earlier you do the threat modeling towards the initial phases of the development is better. I'm not going to explain you each and every term, but I just wanted to tell you the rationale behind the risk assessments or the threat models we have. Now we have so many flavors, so many cheat sheets that are available also from OWASP. You could also go there and you could also learn more. And I think, once you start your development, the ideal way is to start with your risk assessments and then start moving on. And along with this risk assessments, if you see, there are time to time a lot of tools that are required, right? And if you see, as I also mentioned in the previous slide, there is also testing. So in the security world, we call it as static application security testing, and also DAST, and also open source security. So SAST is like, you just have, for all three of them, you have different set of tools. Depending on whatever is the requirement, you have to use that specific tool at specific point of time. For example, static code scan analysis is useful to identify the vulnerabilities in your source code. And this is kind of an open testing. It is also an white box testing. So here you use some of the listed tools based on the kind of programming language that you're developing your application. You have relevant tools. You use these tools to identify if there are any security bugs pertaining to your testing. And here, dynamic application security testing this is a kind of a black box testing. This is done at a runtime, not at a programming time. So even here we have so many applications that are available. We also have Burp Suite, we have Zap, and so many other stuff. And normally inside the organizations, at least they say, it is prohibited to use all of these code scan tools on our own. For example, if tomorrow any one of you is going to get inside the organizations, without proper authorizations, you will not be immediately execute any of these tools due to several many reasons. And at the same time, I think open source security is also one of the key factor. If I look into my career and the way how we used to do coding during those days versus now, those days the open sources are really, really less. The way how we used to consume open sources is less. We used to have like 80% of coding and then 20% is open source. Now it has become the other way around. So when we say like we are using open sources, where we don't own the open sources, but it is coming from a community, it is really, really important for us to check the sanity of those open sources with respect to the security messages or security issues. Then we have also good amount of number of open source tools that are available in the market. And also, as part of the secure software development lifecycle, it is mandatory to also perform code scan, not only just for the code that you have written, but also for the open source that you also, open source libraries that you used as part of your application. Yeah, so there are differences between SAST and DAST. People say like it is a white box testing, the other one is a black box testing. And using SAST, you could also find issues towards the early phase of the development, whereas DAST, I said, it is runtime, and you will be able to find issues towards the end of the development. So both of them brings in the best of the approaches. Both of them have their best best fit into the entire development life cycle. So we say like some people will also argue like I just only want to do SAST versus DAST, but normally we say a combination of SAST and DAST are required and mandatory to be able to achieve decent amount of security for the application that you've developed. And Priya is also asking about, right? Priya is also asking me, what is DevSecOps? I think we are in the digital era and the cloud adoption has gone so higher and higher, right? In the cloud, we can't really separate like I am working on the application and then I am working on the operations. All the teams are sitting together and working together. So right from, starting from developing a code, right from building the application, by the time you push that code into the repositories and so on and so forth, the releasing, the deployment, and also monitoring that particular application is also under your responsibility and under your ownership. So here in the DevSecOps, what happens is there's a continuous integration of tools at each and every phase of the development. As you see in this particular process, we're just trying to build, code, plan, release, and then the cycle go on and on. At some point, we also do static code scan analysis, we do threat model, and then in the operations part, we also include so many other tools for monitoring, for detecting. As I also mentioned, in case if you have any security incident that is reported, or even if there is an alert coming in from your network, then you have to have immediately some plan in place, some process in place, so that you also really catch hold of it, and then you will be able to fix it much before it creates a bigger noise in the market, right? So what I'm trying to tell you today is I'm just trying to give you a glimpse of what happens in this software development. Since you're starting your journey in application security, you also have to understand application security is not just about ethical hacking or bug bounties. As you see here, it is much more than that. First of all, as I also started and mentioned, you have to understand, first of all, if you want to break the system, right, even though you're part of the team or outside the team, when you want to perform any kind of penetration testing or any kind of analysis, you have to know how the system works. You have to have a decent amount of soft skills also, because in the entire atmosphere of having different stakeholders, and then when you enter the organization, you will also enter at a very entry level, right? You have to talk to so many people in the organization, and then you have to have so many soft skills in order to achieve whatever you would like to achieve as part of secure software development life cycle. Because I can tell you n number of scenarios. For example, when you're doing threat modeling, right, risk assessments, I can tell you till date, whenever we do threat modeling inside any organizations, right, people will get into severe aggressive conversations. The development team would not like to accept the fact like this can lead to a huge risk, because they will also have huge tremendous pressures of releasing this product to your customer. At the same time, the security guys are also telling, no, 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 this is mandatory, without which you will not be able to ship the product. So you also need to articulate things in a very way, and you should also be able to provide a mitigation for them. Yeah. And you should also tell them, if you are going to implement this particular recommendation from me today, it'll maybe for sure you will have to end up spending a little more time. But versus if this is coming as a report, once you finish development, you released everything, then this is going to be really, really expensive. So the soft skills play a really, really very important role when you're working in the application security domain. So I wish and I think like all of you will also focus on that part as well, along with your technical skills, which is also really very, very important in this journey. Yeah. And I also wanted to, quickly say our greatest weakness lies in giving up. I know when I started my journey, I have to tell you one small story over here. Maybe some of you can also relate. When you look into this, right, all the terms and terminology are entirely new. For example, when in my organization, they are doing a threat modeling training the very first time. So they said, Shailaja, would you like to come and join on this training? Because we just also want to collect some feedback. Then I'm like, should I bring my code? They're like, no, 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 we don't need any code, but we can still break your application. That particular line caught my attention. I'm like, what? You don't? Because till then I was under the assumption I have to give my piece of code, only then people can tell me what can go wrong. But this particular trainer was telling me, Shailaja, I don't need your code. Tell me about your application. I can tell you what can go wrong. So I sat in the training for 3-4 days, and it's a huge training. After the end of the training, I came out of the room. I said, oh my God, this is all different stack, and I'm currently working on a different stack. I'm never going to do this. And then they said, no, 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 it's not going to be so tough. I just told it for a while, but I never gave up. And later on, it so happened when there were very handful of people at SAP who really knows, how to start this process and methodology in the initial phase. That was quite a number of years ago. And I started, following them, kind of shadowing them and trying to understand the process and the methodology. And at some point of time, I was the first one to score the maximum number of marks in that exam. I also say I'm a certified, threat modeling expert at SAP. What I wanted to say is I just tried it again. I thought, yes, I know it is really difficult. It is not my cup of tea. This is not belonging to my stack. I don't have anything to do in it, but I still want to learn it. Yeah. So when I started, taking my additional step, putting up all the courage into my own self, and then I am able to really chase it. And today that is also one of my core competencies. So people always make fun, even till late at my organization. If you want to really break something, call her, and then if it is a strategic topic or whatever it is, if you want to get the risk assessment done, invite her and she will be the best fit for that. So with this one example, I just wanted to request all of you, in case on the platform, if you find something is so difficult, if you think like it is extremely out of my focus and all that, don't worry, don't give up. Giving up is the worst thing that you're doing it yourself. Try to consume, try to understand, slow down, and then take a deep breath, and then continue. you're definitely going to succeed, because back then we never had so many opportunities and so many trainings and sessions. If we could have such a wonderful career, I trust I can tell you confidently today, with all of these platforms around, we will have many more shining stars out of this batch. Yeah, I could definitely say that. Yeah. And I say the journey continues, it goes on and on. And I would also like to open the, ground for the questions.
Wonderful, wonderful, Shailaja. Actually, just to add to your point, for the benefit of all the audience, application security is so, so important. So, as you gave the example of e-commerce, so web application is one such, and apparently the Verizon report said that web application is leads to 43% of data breach is through threat vector of web application. So that is the amount of it, and we see so many apps today, iOS and Android. Half of them don't make it to the platform because they don't pass the security testing. Google's Play Protect may just say that this is not safe enough. So it is very important, even for people who want to develop their own application, host it, to make sure, as you rightly said, right from planning till execution and operational stage, they have to keep thinking about security throughout if they really want their application on board and people using it. So very, very aptly said.
Yeah, and one more thing, Priya, as you rightly also pointed out the numbers, 43% of it is coming in only from application security. So this is a huge challenge for the organizations. I am very optimistic person. If I have to look into it, this 43% can be converted into so many application security jobs, guys, because we are running short of skills in the market. So you have to really grab this opportunity of this shortage of skills, and you can really make a cool career out of that.
Yeah, I think your answer actually preluded my question. So there's more than enough job opportunity. And since you yourself have been in AppSec from 2008, that's almost 12, 13 years, and it's still going strong, I'm sure it's going to be a long career, and it's not just a career for about a couple of years and then people won't know what to do next, right? So there's enough and more opportunities and interesting opportunities coming by for a sustainable career for individual on application security. So fantastic. So we could open for questions. People can post it on the chat.
Maybe I could also, yeah, if you guys want, you can also, follow me. You can also reach out to me, the platforms, and see what is happening around. And also my request and suggestion for the students over here also would be, yes, for sure, you all are on social media platforms, you do so many things with your friends. Now that you are at some point in your career where you're also getting serious about what to do next, right? Read some important blogs, follow people. If you have, if you really want to try out bug bounties, there are so many bug bounty hunters over there. Just try to follow them. They write cool blogs about how they were able to chase this gap or weakness in the system. And normally, what I do is, for example, I have some dream role in my mind. I keep following people who are already doing that job with their experiences, so that we could really learn out of it. And that is also someone whom you're also looking up to, making your career towards that. So try following people on the social media platforms where you're going to pick your journey on, which will really help you and give you a lot of more insightful things into it.
I think there is a question on bug bounty. I think recently there was a news about a person from India winning almost 500,000 USD. So I think they want to know how to go about with bug bounty.
Yeah, there are so many platforms like Bugcrowd and HackerOne and so on and so forth. You have to register on the platforms and start bug bounties. And the most important factor, I think, even in my example I quoted, right? Bug bounty is not just only about the technical skills. It's all about some common sense, and it's also about how things work. In order to start bug bounties, just go and read some blogs on the medium. People really put step by step how they were able to crack that particular weakness in the system, and so on and so forth. And much before starting on it, I think on our platform also we will have so many exercises. Please follow the instructions given on the platform, so that you will also be able to think like an hacker. On the other side, we also have so many free platforms. And a big, huge disclaimer, guys, when you're trying to do bug bounties, don't ever try to do it on the live systems. It is offensive, and you can also go behind the bars. So you have to really balance out, understanding between bug bounties and trying to put down in live site and so on and so forth. It is like a edge, a sword with the double edge. You have to be, really careful about it. And trust me, you're not the first ones asking me this. Even in my organization, whenever I give a session to all our early talents, right, the first question I get is this: how do I start about, penetration testing? How do I do about bug bounties and all that? So I have a huge disclaimer normally. I say whatever I am teaching in here is not meant to immediately go and implement on the live systems.
Nice.
Are there any further questions?
We'll just wait on. And I think, Shikha, can people unmute and also ask the question?
Sure, Priya. I think we can allow them to unmute and ask questions.
Right.
Yes. Also, anybody who has a question, you can ask questions about a career in cybersecurity, and I'm sure the expert here can guide you very well. So you can unmute yourself and ask. Alternatively, you can also share the question on the chat.
There's a question from Jayashree. It's a wonderful question. She's doing her computer science and how do I start my career in application security? Yeah, so Jayashree, thank you for the question. You're already on the right track. Even I did my master in computer applications. I started from the student itself. I always wanted to, be with the machines and be into the tech world. And for you guys, it is really very, easy, I have to say, when compared to our times. As I think you're the reason why you're also here is also what you're also part of the program. And as the students, right, I would also like to take the question in two forms. How can I make into the application security career even though I'm a fresher? For sure, it is not easy for a fresher to get into jobs. But for example, if you're writing a blog, whenever you go to the interview, recently one of the incident happened, right? Like some every day in the newspaper, some or the other incident happened. Like this data is available in the dark web, big baskets data is put in there here and all. You be relevant. You also follow the news, what is happening in the cybersecurity world. When you go to any interview, try to articulate it so that you bring your views about the incident or the issue that happened, which will already give the interviewer a confidence. And also we have OWASP top 10. Normally, it also talks about when you are developing a web application, what all security standards you have to follow. Go through them thoroughly and try and test in some of the free websites wherever they are available. Yeah. And then at the same time, if you're, I think some of you will also have good amount of time, try to identify some free internships wherever they are available and try to apply for it to get a feel of it. And moreover, don't be in a hurry or a rush to say like, hey, I have 15 lakhs package or 20 lakhs package. Yes, it is also important to have a good package, but you also have to see, for example, today someone is offering me 15,000 and asking me to go and sit in front of the machine and only solve tickets. All my technical skills, all that I learned in the college is going to be for a toss. Rather, you pick a career which you really love and like for example, cybersecurity here, and you also try to get mastery into it. Try to attend, for example, from time to time, we have so many events happening, so many webinars happening, and you will also try to get what is happening in the market. And if it's all about, your preparedness for the interview, interviewers just only wanted to see how comfortable and confident you are about the topic and what is your curiosity on the topic all about. Are you still having the curiosity like a child to really know something new, even though you're not comfortable about it? And then, for example, if you have already put some of your blogs in some of the platforms like Medium or LinkedIn or whatever it is, then you're already giving a very wonderful, approach to your interview. At the same time, we have CTFs, capture the flags, right? From time to time, there are so many platforms who are also offering CTFs. If you showcase them, I have, stood in this place, or I am the best bug bounty hunter, whatever it is. If you just can show them these are the places where I have participated in CTFs and I am able to capture the flag, or I got this award as part of it, for sure you're going to have additional, brownies for your interview. So these are the few things that you also have to do along with your career journey in cybersecurity, not just about, getting comfortable about the interview, but show them like when 10 people are coming and joining the interview, you are also at a far off from others when you compare yourself with all the 9 of them. Yeah, that would really help.
Yeah, just to add to it, as Shika was mentioning, after this 1 month long learning of this course, they have a grand challenge competition, which is essentially capture the flag. So the winners of this, actually 10 of them, top 10 of them will get to do internship at NCII PC, and top 10 people from every college will get to do internship at SkillStars. So I think we really would like the students to make the most of this.
Yeah, and also, somebody was also asking me, ma'am, you're talking about one disclaimer. Yes, just that now you learnt about bug bounties and penetration testing. You're not supposed to exercise all of this on the live websites on live systems. It is non-ethical, so you might also end up behind the bars. So you have to be really careful about when you are doing when you're using such tools and performing some hacking and all of that scenarios. The ideal situation is you try out in a system and a landscape where it is meant for educational purposes to get comfortable. And as Priya also mentioned, if you really win this, you will also get the opportunity to grab some of the internship opportunities around. So guys, have focus and then be serious about it and try to grab your seat on those internships.
Are there any other questions?
I see some questions. Shailaja, are you seeing them on chat?
To get into such trainings for students, there are no prerequisites to get into such trainings. As we said, for example, on the current platform, some of them are self-paced and some of them also have some exercises. So feel free to get in there and try to, learn all of this. There are no prerequisites at all as far as I know. Priya, maybe you can also add to that.
That's right. No prereq, only curiosity to learn.
Yes.
I recently saw, am I audible?
Yeah.
I just saw what is CTF and all. Like we had an organizing event in our college, and in that I saw a few websites, Pico CTF and all, which included forensics, web exploitations, etc. Like I was wondering, what is forensics and cryptography and steganography and all? Like mainly, what was forensics? Cryptography is mostly about hacking, and steganography, where images and videos will be hiding flags or keys and all. But forensics, I couldn't understand what it was.
Yeah. I'll tell you what is forensics all about. Generally, in the physical era, for example, say like a thief is coming in and doing some theft in the houses or in banks or whatever, right? So the investigation team goes there and they try to collect the footprints and what are the tools that the weapons he used, and and if there is any any loss of people and all that, then they also collect so many information. Like they will not allow anyone to enter in, and they say crime happened and all that. Similarly, in the digital era, if there is a theft that happened, normally these days we are also hearing about ransomware and all that, right? Normally what people do is they just come and steal some of your information from your computer. At the same time, they lock it. You will not be able to access any of your files. And for sure, like how the thief enters the house, the similar way, there is also some path which is followed by all of these attackers to enter your machine or to enter your server or whatever it is. So digital forensics is trying to collect all of these evidences, the paths and the methods and the methodologies, trying to finally resolve the case in the digital platforms, what happened and what are the tools and means and measures that, were behind all of these, ransomware attacks that happened on the systems. So there are a lot of tools. And for example, since we are talking about forensics, that itself is a huge, subject altogether. We can do forensics on the disk, we can do forensics on the computer, we can do forensics using photos. There are cloud forensics, IoT forensics. There are so many varieties of forensics, different categories that are available. But from time to time, depending on whatever is being compromised, we also use there is also file forensics, there is also email forensics which is available, and so on and so forth. Maybe let me just tell you one quick example since you're asking the question. recently what happened last year in Bangalore, the police department found a dead body in one of the lake. And they were some of the suspects. They were like thinking these might be the guys or the persons who are involved in this crime. So they have brought all of them into the custody. And when they also got the machines, in one of the machine in the browser history, they found one guy typing and finding out what is the deepest lake in Bangalore. And that's the lake where they found this particular, person's dead body. So it already gave them the clue about, it is already giving a huge hint what is this person trying to do and what is this. They could really connect the dots behind it. So there is so much of it behind the forensics. You can find out the traces and logs from web browsers, from your mobiles, from your WhatsApp chats. And moreover, we all have to understand there is no delete button on the machine. Even if you delete entire data, there are so many forensics tools where you can retrieve everything as is. Yeah, so digital forensics is all about that.
And just to add to that, capture the flag is just an event. It could be the situation posed in a capture the flag event could be multiple types of cybersecurity scenario. One such thing could be forensic, could be the problem that they give you to solve.
Statement. Yeah, as Priya mentioned, for example, if you see the CTFs are also like beginners, intermediate, and advanced. So whenever they launch a CTF game for the students, they will also see to that all basic minimum fundamentals are being put as problem statements. So you start chasing one by one, and then finally you will be able to go arrive at your destiny, whatever is expected out of that CTF. So they will include OWASP top 10, forensics, and many others, and so on and so forth. So you will have to, solve all of those puzzles on that.
There are a few more questions on the chat, Shailaja.
Yeah, they were telling any application development languages like Java, Python, etc. needed to participate in Grand Challenge. Priya, maybe you can take this question. They were asking, like, are there any programming languages required to participate in the challenge, in the Grand Challenge?
Not really. Not really. My battery is running out of charge.
Okay.
Not really. My battery is running out of charge, so I'm just going to get my charger.
Yeah, sure, Priya. And also there was a question coming around can you brief on how first semester students can start? Yeah, if you're in the first semester, it is all the way you have so much of more time. So dedicate 1 hour of your time every day, and then also try to see to that you will be able to, learn things one by one. And also if you're already registered on the platform, it is already giving you a good hint on how to start your career and how to start learning, how to start your learning journey so that you can get into the career. Yeah.
Shailaja, there is another question. I don't think we have taken this up. Any application development languages like Java, Python, etc.?
I've already mentioned it is not required to participate in the Grand Challenge. Priya just answered.
Okay.
Yeah.
Asking all the attendees if there are any more questions, you can share them.
Yeah, it can be any question over here. You don't have to, feel shy.
So I see one question about more details about the Grand Challenge. So see, the Grand Challenge is going to be, like Priya mentioned, a capture the flag event. What that challenge is going to be, we are going to share that later. All the students who successfully complete the course, once they complete the course, then we will share the details of the Grand Challenge.
Yeah, right. I think the first most important thing, as I also learned from Priya and the team here, is first of all, you put your focus entirely on completing the course. I think once you complete the course, generally whenever there is a course, whatever be the Grand Challenge will be in and around the course. So if you're focusing on completing the course, you'll be able to really chase it. Yeah.
That's 100% true, Shailaja.
Yeah, Manish, there's a question, is cybersecurity stressful? Yeah, so I was also telling, Priya and all of them telling why I have a cool background, I just also want to tell you cybersecurity is not so stressful as you start your career. It is really cool. It still keeps me so young because I get to learn everything. Because for me, I'm a person, if I am not learning something, I really get discharged, you know. So I keep my battery so charged up by learning and by understanding what is happening around. For sure, it is not stressful, but it also depends on the person. If you don't want to learn, if you want to be happy about what you know, then you know this is not the career for you.
Well said. So I do see some questions on the programming language. I think I kind of, my battery died then. So there is no
Yeah.
need for you all to know any specific language. It would be more like a system log that you will need to find out. Maybe there'll be very few questions on specific programming errors. It could be more on a log which you will need to analyze and stuff like that. So even if you are not an expert in programming language, I think you should still be able to take part in the Grand Challenge. So some more details about Grand Challenge. So all the people who complete the course can actually attend the Grand Challenge. Only those who complete the course can attend. And you have 3 rounds. We have 3 rounds of Grand Challenge. Obviously, the first round will be slightly easy. The second is medium difficulty, and the final one is difficult. So the people, 40% of the people who clear the round 1 go to round 2, and 20% of them go to round 3. And this is done within 2 days, from April 3rd and April 4th. Those are the 2 days you have this competition. So it would definitely, I'm sure, making it to round 1 will not be very difficult. If you do all the lab exercises that is mentioned as part of the courseware, I'm sure you should be able to come out with flying colors, at least in round 1. As Shailaja said, no field you can be like happy that, oh, I finished my master's, I've finished everything, I'm done for life. Things are changing so much. You have to keep yourself current and updated. Otherwise, you become irrelevant. So that applies even for cybersecurity, which is changing even more rapidly. That's what people keep saying. I moved into cybersecurity in 2013, and that too as a practice head. And there were people who were doing security from 2000. So they said, Priya, don't worry. What was then in 2000 is now completely changed. So it's all new. So it's okay.
So there
Yeah,
was
you
also
have to complete the course. We have to complete only cybersecurity course, right? Yes, you have to complete the application security vulnerability assessment.
yeah,
This
and there is
question
also
This
question.
question is regarding course material. Ma'am, can you send the details of setting up the environment prerequisites? It's all very clearly mentioned in the lab manual, Varun. So please go through the lab manual. In fact, it has the screenshots also. So you should be able to go through it. In case you're finding any difficulty, as we had mentioned yesterday, you could send the mail to the mail ID which Abbas had shared. Anyway, I will type it here for the benefit of everybody. Shankar is the mail ID whom you need to send it. You would want to take the question in terms of relevance of placement. Shailaja, how relevant it is?
Yeah, as we are also giving an heads up on the numbers, right? As Priya also mentioned, 43% of it all, you know, coming out of the issues out of application security. I think if you, as I said, you as a student, you should also have an additional, you know, wow kind of a thing on your profile. For example, if you showcase this certificate, like you're able to complete the course on NASCOM platform, and you showcase this, it is already giving you an additional advantage. And for sure, we are running short of resources on cybersecurity, and we could really tell you, like, you know, maybe not immediately, maybe before completing your codes and all that, but for sure, it is going to fetch you a lot in the long run. And try to add, you know, more points into your profile by participating in capturing the flags, by participating in courses, you also have a lot of courses, right? Like the one over here. I think, Priya, you will also be giving the certification, right? Course completion certification. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
So
yeah, and not only that, if people who complete the course successfully can also take up the NASSCOM SSC assessment. And if they clear the assessment, get over 70%, then they get a Skills India logo based certificate with the NSQF level ranking. So that also the student can actually apply for. So we'll probably keep it open for a couple of minutes, Shika, before.
Sure, Priya. Yeah, sure.
Always there is a, in any of the reports that you all see, there's always a huge gap for skilled resources in cybersecurity. I think the
yeah,
ISC
right.
squared report mentions 3.1 million is the gap for cybersecurity resources across the world, and roughly about 2 million within the APAC region itself. So for many, many more years to come, there's the severe gap between the demand and supply for cybersecurity. So if y'all make a mark here, you can definitely have an interesting career. I have moved out of corporate for almost 3 years. I moved out of Cognizant in 2018. And till date, there is somebody calling, a headhunter calling for a job for me. So that is the relevance of cybersecurity. So you can imagine, I'm out of corporate for 3 years, but people are reaching out for jobs. So you will be relevant for a long time to come.
They are employable till their career, Priya. I could say that with all the attacks that are happening and the complexities going on and on. So people will be employable for sure on this cybersecurity profile.
And you also had a data point, right? Like in 2020, when COVID had a lot of people lost jobs. I think cybersecurity folks were the ones who had more than many offers to take it up.
Yeah.
And also, as you said, increase the team size.
Yes, right. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions by the participants? You can share it on the chat window. You can unmute yourself and ask the question.
We can probably conclude, I guess. Shika, we can probably conclude.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Shailaja. I think this was fantastic. The person who have heard whatever you said will definitely be motivated to look into this seriously. And your journey is so inspiring. I'm sure it's going to inspire many people here. Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you, Priya.
Shika, for organizing everything.
Thank you so much, Priya, Shailaja. What a brilliant session. I think from your journey, it's going to encourage so many students, to take forward a journey in STEM, in cybersecurity, and I'm sure to even complete this course more honestly. Like you said, it's cybersecurity is one such career which has a lot of opportunities. There is scope to contribute as a full-time career expert, as a freelancer, so lot of skills that they need to keep updated, and a lot of goodies that they can grab in the March for Secure Code. So thank you so much. Thanks a lot for this session today.
Thank you.
Thanks.